We have seen the LG G6 already on the Mobile World Congress, but now the final device has arrived and I want to show you a little bit more details, especially first test results concerning battery runtime, processor performance and the difference between the LG G6 and the new flagship from Samsung, the Galaxy S8, because both are very familiar, I have to say. Both come from Korea, both have that new format with a little bit more height and a little bit less width, and especially these rounded corners here. So I can't guess that this is just by chance from the same country at the same time with these smaller frames around here. So let's compare and let's start here with the display, because here we are exactly at a format from 1:2. So the G6 is exactly double the height than width, and here it's 1:2.04 or 5, sorry. 2.05, so meaning a little bit more in the height than in the width than the double, but nevertheless it's exactly the same idea. Nevertheless, this one is 68 millimeters, 72 millimeters from the complete housing in width, and these 4 millimeters make kind of a difference, because first of all you have the edge screens here on the S8, making it a little bit, just in the feeling how it's felt, a little bit more compact than the hard edges here of the G6. So these 4 millimeters make the difference that you can here reach the corner with one thumb in one-hand usage now, of course. A little bit easier than here on the G6. It's still okay, but the thumb has to stretch a little bit more. So one-hand usage is a little bit easier here, especially you have that new user interface I showed you here, Samsung Experience, because you have these horizontal swipes here, that's the same. But if you want to go to the app drawer, it's just like that one here. So you have this vertical, up or down, doesn't matter, to switch, and that's not possible here. Even if you switch the settings, you can do here on the home screen settings, go like that and have that home and app drawer, and then you're here and have this button. So you can press this button with one hand also, but I find it a little bit, you have to target it here, and it's a little bit easier here because you can do wherever you want to, just like that. It's from the a little bit more comfort, a little bit more easier for the thumb than to aim here and to tap there. Just small details, but I wanted to show. And both come with Android 7.0, but the LG 6 has not this feature with this long press and these pop-up windows. If you have a long press here, it's just the typical drag and drop. So smaller difference. And especially let's go once more to the settings here, for example. Here we have that this is even a little bit more like Android, the native Android. And here you have these tabs on top here. Some may find this easier, but I would prefer just a swipe here through a little bit longer list. But let me first go back to the main settings here to where it's coming out of the box like this one here. So a little bit difference, yes, of course. But let's go back to the display I wanted to show. See the sign here, and I measured, because this is Super AMOLED, this is LCD dual domain. So you know, AMOLED normally a little bit darker, LG a little bit more brighter, but better contrast on AMOLED. But let's see. Here I measured on the G6 in the middle 542 nits. And here it's 646. So even if it's AMOLED, it's way brighter. And you have the better contrast, so readability in bright sunlight will be better, because sun boost also means if the sensor here sees, okay, I have sunlight or a bright condition, bright surrounding here, then it's going up to these maximum values. So advantage here a little bit. And last but not least, concerning the display, you have these 83% range or ratio between the area of display display and the front size overall. This is 78% here, so even a good one. So you don't have wasted much of space here, but a little bit. It's the second advantage from the S8 here compared to the G6. But let's come to the size, because we have 5.77 inches here, 5.8, okay, 147 millimeters, and this one is 5.70, 145. So it seems to be almost a little bit bright, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but nevertheless, let's compare once more, because you have these different ratios, a little bit different. Remember, 1 to 2, 1 to 2.05. So this makes a difference, because in the area, if I measure the square centimeters, it's almost the same. This is 84.0 and this is 84.4. So just ignore these 0.4 square centimeters, I'd say. So the screen area is really, really the same. Nevertheless, I wanted to see how is the comparison if I have the same photo uploaded like this one here. I shot that with a 16 megapixels camera to have that comparison for you, and the G6 on the top. For example, watch the water. I find it more blue, a little bit more contrast here, even if the S8 below has AMOLED. I expected the difference, but don't forget the G6 has Dolby Vision, and you see here, for example, go to the trees on the right edge of the photo here and watch below on the S8. I find them a little bit more like yellow, a little bit red also, and they are more green. It looks for me a little bit more natural on the G6. So for me, I find it very astonishing that the G6 looks a little bit better than the AMOLED S8 here. So this Dolby Vision seems to be a very good idea. It's surprising me even more. But both are great on a very high level, of course. Don't get me wrong. Internal memory here is 32, net 21.1 gigabyte. Here it's 64, net 50.9 gigabyte. So this is one more advantage. We have Bluetooth 5.0 instead of the regular 4.2. So meaning, especially in low energy mode, you have 4 times higher range and 2 times higher speed, data rate speed. So when it's readier sooner, you have lost less power, so you're even consuming less power here with that new Bluetooth standard. And both have that USB-C connector here with the new cables, but only S8 is supporting the new data rate standard. That's 3.1, and this is a classical 2.0. So if you have to transmit a lot of data on a regular basis, this one is going quicker than the G6. Both have IP68, meaning you have this water and dust proof, fast LTE, NFC and so on. But the camera is completely different. When we go to the backside once more, remember on the G6 we have that dual camera, and here on the S8 a classical single camera. But this one has 12 megapixels, very bright, so gathering a lot of light megapixels here. And this one is 2 times 13 megapixel. We have different objectives with different angles, but you combine the information. So we have to have a completely separate shootout. That's taking way more time to have the differences worked out following up. Let's come back to this one here. So you see the fingerprint sensor, and it's on-off standby, by the way. This one is just the fingerprint sensor. And remember, I didn't like it having here right beside the camera, because you're always touching here. It's a little bit close here too, and it could be a little bit deeper or higher frame or whatever, that you feel it a little bit better, because on both is just a very small and tiny metal frame round here. It's a little bit better, but not optimal like this one here. Let's call it like that. Yeah, we have to see camera quality. And by the way, when we are here, you might think that the S8 is way smaller. It's just 8.0 instead of 8.1 millimeters. That's coming because because of these curved edges here, it's looking smaller. But give you the proof, I have that metal thing over here. Just lay it on top here, press hard here, and press down there. If there would be a lesser height, you would hear some clicks. This is just 0.1 millimeter, a tenth of a millimeter difference, so never mind about that. And from the weight, it's 151 and 162, but you have that bigger, brighter metal frame once around here. And maybe this is something for you if you are one of those dropping your phone. Yeah, you have to think over. This is almost completely in glass. You have these curved edges here, so if it's falling down, unfortunate, coming here on these edge frames, you have a glass break. Maybe it's a little bit better here because it's not standing over. You don't have these curved edges. It's dropping here. It feels more solid. So these 11 grams more of the weight may have the result that this is a little bit more stable if you drop. But nevertheless, it's always kind of if you are lucky or not dropping and have a crack or not, you will knock on wood. Yeah, but you know what I mean, I hope so. Coming to the processor, it's completely different here because on at least the European version, or European version, it's the only one I could get here, it's the Exynos processor on the Samsung, the Exynos 8895. Here, it's a Qualcomm Snapdragon, but not the new one, unfortunately. It's the old 821 Pro, so a little bit enhanced, meaning here you have 2.3 and 2.2, 2.3 and 1.7 gigahertz, completely different graphics module. Here, it's the Mali G71 with 20 cores, 20 GPU cores. This one here is the Adreno 530. Both have 4 GB of RAM, and like always, you know, I'm doing more than 50 values out of 15 different benchmarks, overall ranking, and here remember the S8 was the best Android phone, 110% above the average. Average is 0, so 110 above means more than double the speed of the average. Best Android phone. Up to the moment, we will see. Let's come to the LG G6. And here, under the same circumstances, it's doing 68% above the average, so way lower. So you see the difference. But before you decide too quickly, let's go to Game Bench, because remember, I'm always doing this game check here with this graphically advanced game called Dead Trigger 2. And let's start here. Unfortunately, I prepared it, but nevertheless, the game is starting all over. I do not know why, so just have a second. Let me first explain you what Game Bench is doing. You see in the upper right corner here, in real time, the frames per second. This one is now happening nothing because the game is just starting. Here it's getting to be interesting, and especially if we move and have a different look here and see this, what happens. You have a maximum of 60 frames per second, and in most cases also the LG G6 is doing this. Even if you're changing the scene like that one here, I don't want to have this because, you know, YouTube is sometimes a little bit critical on that, so I don't want to have any problems with YouTube or Google. What's going up is just here, the average is almost the same like on the S8. And if you're doing longer sessions, like I do, of course, 10 minutes at least, to have a good average rate, and after 10 minutes of gaming this game here, playing this game here, we have the exact same average of 56 frames per second, both on the LG G6 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. So for gamers, it doesn't make any difference, at least on these graphically advanced games. And easier games, by the way, no problem at all for all modern phones, at least, like Angry Birds or whatever, Candy Crush, whatever, you name it. So it's just these graphically advanced games that are a problem or might be a problem. And for gamers, the message is clear. You can also use the LG G6 for the same games here and have the exact same frame rate. I would have expected a little bit more, to be honest, on these, or at least on the S8, from the benchmark performance. Maybe it's already or still a problem from the drivers, GPU drivers, at least on the Mali G71 or Adreno 530. Maybe the drivers get an update and then it changed, but at the moment you have seen both are on the same range for gamers. Last but not least, let's come to the battery. Both embedded once more already here on the LG. Now remember, the G5 had that, they called it modular system here. I didn't like that at all. If modular, then take a Motorola that's click and working, but that G5 was not a good idea in my opinion. So they have gone back classical crafting here, 3300 milliamps battery capacity, and here on the S8 it's 3000 milliamps. So sounds as if the LG G6 has an advantage here. So once more, the test results are the only thing that's counting. And here we are, or let's start with the S8. You already know this one has had 671 minutes. That's 30% above the average. And here, same circumstances, the LG G6 has 622 minutes, 20% above the average. 20, 30, see the difference. So if you compare these both, it's 8% running longer, this Samsung, than the LG. 8% is not much, and even with 20% above the average, I guess normal users, no problem, maybe even 2 days. But heavy users, depending on if you are moderate, heavy, no problem. If you are an extremely heavy user, this might get a little bit sooner in trouble. 8% is not much, but it may be these 8% that brings you through the evening with the Samsung and not with the LG. So depending on what you're doing, how heavy you use it, how long you use your phone each day, it might be the better choice a little bit for you if you're one of these top 5%, say, users here. So the LG is running a little bit shorter than the Samsung, unfortunately. So that's enough, I hope so, at least for the moment, for some first details here from the Samsung S8 compared to the LG G6. If you liked this video, please be so kind to rate it. Maybe even leave a sub and your opinion in a comment. Thanks for that in advance. Take care and bye.